I've been using the second iteration of the Kindle Scribe since it launched back in December of 2024. And after 8 months of owning it, I thought it was time to come back and talk about it some more. So here are 5 pros and cons of the Kindle Scribe, which I hope might help you decide whether it's worth splashing the cash and whether it's worth upgrading from the first iteration. Hey friends, Mark from The Spark. Welcome back to another video. As I said, I've had this version of the Kindle Scribe since December last year. And the truth is, there's not much different from the first Scribe. Same screen, same processor, same weight, and even the same physical dimensions. The only physical change is a slightly more textured glass, which supposedly gives the writing experience a bit more of a paper-like feel, as well as a little aesthetic change, such as the colours available. What Amazon has actually done then is refine the experience, but mainly through software updates and by bundling in the premium pen. All right, let's get into the list. Yeah, this is the most obvious change in the 2024 refresh, the premium pen. It used to be sold separately for £80 in the UK and a similar amount in dollars, but now it comes as standard. The basic pen is fine, it gets the job done, but as the moniker implies, it's basic. The premium pen adds a soft rubber eraser on the top, a side button to switch between digital writing tools, and this streamlines the experience more than you'd expect. You see, they might sound like small touches, but surprisingly they make a big difference in day-to-day use. Premium pen feels a little more balanced in the hand. And some users say it feels slightly grippier too, though I haven't found any official confirmation that the material has changed. Please do let me know in the comments if you know anything more concrete on that. Now, it's still not quite on the same level as an Apple Pencil, say, for responsiveness. Apple claims as low as 9 milliseconds of latency on compatible iPads, while the Scribe's input lag is generally estimated to be around 19 milliseconds. The reason? Well, the Apple Pencil is an active stylus with its own battery and Bluetooth connection, which allows for more responsive input, pressure sensitivity, and tilt. The Kindle pen, by contrast, is completely passive. It uses electromagnetic resonance technology from Wacom, powered entirely by the tablet screen when the pen is nearby. And that's how the side button works too. When you press it near the screen, it changes the signal, the screen picks it up, and it triggers that tool switch. But it only works if it's within EMR range. Well, anyway, this passive design is far more power efficient and it doesn't require charging, which is a huge plus. After using the Scribe for a while, my guess is you eventually won't really notice the delay. The screen of the Scribe is the same 10.2 inch, 300 pixels per inch glare-free display from the original model. The pixel density means that the text is sharp, arguably on par with printed paper, and the eInk Carta 1200 technology enables great contrast and reduces ghosting, so blacks look deeper and page turns feel quicker. One of the few actual changes in this 2024 refresh, Amazon also subtly changed the texture of the front glass to better mimic the feel of paper when writing. It's a small touch, and to be fair, most folks might not even notice it, but I think it gives the stylus a little more bite on the screen. And talking about that screen, well, you get nearly 50% more real estate when you compare that to a 6-inch Kindle, which makes a noticeable difference when you're reading PDFs, reading comics, or books with more complex formatting. And when you're taking notes, you're not constantly zooming in or flipping between pages. Everything just feels clearer and more spacious. When Amazon launched the Scribe, it wasn't the hardware that stood out by any stretch. It was the software that came bundled with it. But the good news for owners of the older Scribe, everything that launched with the new Scribe also rolled out to the original model. Because remember, the internals haven't changed. There was no technical reason to separate the features in each device. And so, in a very un-Apple-like way, Amazon didn't. So, what actually got better with that software then? Well, first, handwriting to text. You can jot down quick notes or even full paragraphs and export them as clean, editable text. Second, the new underlining tool. Previously, if you wanted to annotate a book, you were stuck with simple highlights or clunky notes. Now you can actually draw a neat underline and the software snaps it into place. So it looks clean and it's not scribbly. It makes the whole experience feel more intentional and less like you're fighting the interface. And then there's the biggie, Active Canvas, together with its partner Extended Margin. Active Canvas lets you write directly inside eBooks, but in a defined space, kind of. I think this is a reasonably clever way to deal with text size changes and still keeping your note legible. An extended margin gives you a dedicated writing area next to the text in the, well, margin. And finally, AI notebook summaries. Now this is a bit more niche, but if you're using the Scribe for long form note taking, it can generate a quick summary of your handwritten notes. It's not ChatGPT level deep, but it gives you a decent snapshot. So all those together have completely changed how I use the Scribe. It no longer feels like a big Kindle with a bolted on notebook. It feels like a unified device. Those tools don't just make the Scribe better, they make it feel finished. Well, a bit nearer to being finished. Your notebooks automatically sync to your Kindle account via Wi-Fi. And from there, you can access them in the Kindle app or export them via email, either as a clean PDF or converted text. The handwriting to text export is particularly useful, especially for longer notes, and in my experience works reasonably well. There's no subscription involved, no clunky third-party connection needed, and no extra software to install. It's just baked into the Kindle ecosystem. Now, you might regard that as a negative, and I get that, and I'll talk about that in a bit. You don't have to remember to sync, it just happens in the background. You don't have to fiddle with formats, the email export handles it. If you take notes regularly for study, work, or personal journaling, this makes the Kindle Scribe surprisingly easy to rely on. And because it's all cloud-based, you can go back and find those notes later without needing to remember which device you wrote them on. In short, it's simple, it's stable, and it works exactly how you'd hope, quietly and reliably in the background. Amazon claims the Kindle Scribe can last up to 12 weeks of reading or around 3 weeks of note-taking, based on 30 minutes of use per day with the front light on medium. The Scribe packs a 3000 mAh battery, which is roughly twice the capacity of a Paperwhite. Now, in real-world use, I typically charge this once every 2 weeks, even with daily note use and Wi-Fi on. And that matches those online reporting estimates of 1 to 3 weeks of runtime under heavy use. Charging is via USB-C, but there is no wireless charging, which some might expect in 2025, but I don't think it's crucial here. This device isn't a top-up gadget like your phone. Still, if Amazon were to push this as a premium device, then wireless charging might be a thoughtful future inclusion. Before we get on to the cons, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your favorite things about the Kindle Scribe? Is there a feature that I've missed or something you find surprisingly useful that more people should know about? Drop your pros in the comments. I always read them and they often help others who are deciding whether or not to get one of these. And while we're at it, if you're finding this video helpful, feel free to give it the thumbs up and share the video. And if you're into Kindles, iPads and the occasional smattering of other kinds of tech, please tap that subscribe button so you don't miss an upload. Right, onto the cons. As I've stressed quite a few times in the video so far, this refreshed version is the exact same hardware as the original from 2022. Same screen, same processor, etc. and still very much black and white. Amazon announced the Kindle Colorsoft alongside this model, and many assumed that the Scribe might follow suit, but no, this is still very much a monochrome eInk device. With the release of colour-capable eInk tablets from brands like Books, whose current models feature colour Kaleido 3 panels, and the remarkable Paper Pro, which also features a colour eInk display, I think it's fair to ask, why hasn't Amazon made the leap? Other brands like Big Me have also entered the colour eInk scene. So if smaller companies can do colour, what's Amazon waiting for? They've got the infrastructure, the market share, the scale. Is the market for colour simply too niche for an already niche product? That might be their logic. But with more people using eInk, from everything from academic diagrams to full colour PDFs and digital planners, it's starting to feel like Amazon is playing it overly safe. Is it a technical limitation? Well, not likely. Those other manufacturers are using eInk Kaleido 3 or Gallery 3 panels, which are perfectly good screens with great colour. Is it about price? Perhaps. Colour eInk panels are more expensive and they have a lower contrast than their black and white counterparts. But Amazon has that scale, so if anyone could make it work at a consumer-friendly price, surely it's them. More likely, it's just purely a strategic choice. As I mentioned earlier, colour eInk is still a niche within a niche, and Amazon might not think that demand will justify the cost and complexity. At least not yet. But if you're someone who reads comics, image-heavy textbooks, or prefers multicoloured highlights, the lack of colour does stand out. Underlining and highlighting are now supported and they work well, especially with the new software's Snap feature that straightens lines and makes annotations look neater. But you still can't scribble freely anywhere on the page, and instead you're limited to active canvas, and so these notes flow over the text and can be moved and resized, but they're kind of boxed in by design. And it's a compromise that works to a point, and in all fairness, I see why they do it for the reasons that I gave earlier, but it's still a far cry from how we naturally mark up physical books or notebooks. You might very well miss the freedom to underline in your own style, draw arrows, circle words, or jot spontaneous thoughts wherever they fall on the page. This limitation, while understandable given the nature of reflowable text, still makes the experience feel a little bit digital first and human second. The Scribe weighs around 430 grams, that's about 15 ounces. Now that might not sound like much on paper, but in practice it's a different story, especially if you like to read in bed. See, I don't use the Scribe for bedtime reading, but I was forced to when my Colorsoft went away for repair, and it wasn't a great experience for me. Holding it on one hand while lying down becomes uncomfortable, and it's not the sort of device that you can easily balance or prop up. It's great on a desk or a table where that larger screen really shines, but as a casual reading companion, I think it's just a little bit too large and heavy. If you're someone who travels a lot or prefers to read curled up on the sofa or in bed, something like the Kindle Paperwhite is far better suited. These devices are lighter, easier to grip, and much more forgiving when it comes to longer reading sessions in awkward positions. The pen attaches magnetically to the side, which is fine if you're sitting at a desk or not moving the device much. But the moment you pop it into a bag or brush past it on the sofa, the pen does have a habit of falling off. Now, to be fair, the official Amazon case does include a pen loop, which does give you that kind of secure place to store the stylus. And this does work fine when you're packing it away properly. But in more casual use, when you're taking notes, pausing, setting it down, picking it back up again, you often just snap the pen back on magnetically. And it's in those in-between moments that it's just not that secure. Listen, maybe this is a minor complaint and I'm being too picky, but I do wonder, could Amazon have offered a slightly more clever solution? Let me know in the comments. Do you think there's a better way they could have handled pen storage? You can export notes by email as a PDF or a converted text file, but there's no direct integration with apps such as Notion, OneNote or Evernote. So if you're someone who wants all your handwritten notes pulled into a wider system that you prefer, the Kindle Scribe is still fairly closed off. And here's where that earlier Pro, that convenient free cloud syncing, starts to show its limits. Yep, it's seamless and it's simple, but it could also be seen as quite rigid. You don't get to choose where your data goes. There's no Dropbox or Google Drive option. It's Amazon's cloud or nothing. Now, that might not bother you if you're already knee-deep in the ecosystem like me, but for those who want control over their own storage, it's a definite drawback. Compare that to something like the remarkable Paper Pro, where while it does have a subscription model, it offers significantly more freedom in where and how you sync your content. And with the Android-based tablets, they have all the apps you need to store things how you like. So, while Amazon does win on simplicity, offering a free, no-hassle backup system, it loses out on flexibility and user control. For those who rightly want to choose where their notes live and how they integrate with the rest of their digital workflow, that might be a deal breaker. What do I think after 8 months? If you already own the original Kindle Scribe, there is zero need to go out and get the upgrade, or rather go online and get the upgrade. The internals are exactly the same and all the new software features rolled out to that older model too. The only tangible difference is the inclusion of the premium pen, which you can still buy separately if you want that added functionality. So unless you want the new slightly textured glass or maybe that design tweak with the colors and stuff, I don't think you're missing out on anything major. That said, there's still room to grow. I'm looking forward to the day when color finally comes to the Kindle Scribe. Until then, what you've got is a clean, focused, well-supported reading and writing device that'll make a lot of sense to most people. If this video was any value to you, please consider scanning this QR code here or tapping the link on the description and buy me a virtual coffee as a way of saying thanks. And if you'd like to watch my 7 months later thoughts I had on the Kindle Colorsoft, you can watch that here, or check out my other Kindle Scribe videos in this playlist. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.